scale output.
Very good. Okay. The first major decision is scale. The second major decision for the firm is output. And the third one is the input. Okay. So chapter 7 and 9 talks about how the firm determines the optimal scale, optimal output, and optimal input. And the sequence of the decision making is this is the first step, this is the second, and this is third. Okay? And since all these three are unknown variables, and we talk about approach when we want to solve all these three unknown variables. What's the name of that approach?
Backward induction.
Very good, the backward induction. Okay? So we use backward induction to solve these three variables, which means we're going to solve from the last stage. So that's why chapter 7 deal with optimal input. How we derive the optimal input. Knowing the optimal scale, knowing the optimal output. Then after that, we talk about optimal output. And that's what chapter 8 about. Okay? So in chapter 8, we learned how do we derive the optimal output. Okay? So we have done chapter 7, 8. The only decision we have not covered is optimal scale. And that's what we're going to do today. Okay? So after today, and we finished the producer theory part, and you know it will be a okay. All right. So that's where we are.
Are you gonna give us back our quizzes?
Today.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes, I have it. Do I have it again? Maybe in my office. Back. Yeah. Okay, the first thing, okay, to show you the optimal scale, the first thing I'm going to introduce you is what we call long run average cost curve. So that's the first thing I'm going to introduce you, okay? And even though this is still average cost curve, but the meaning, okay, and the interpretation of this long run average cost curve is quite different from the average short run curve you have learned, okay? And remember, in the short run, okay, when we analyze the behavior in the short run, I will have this ABC, this is the ABC, and this is the marginal cost, okay? And the average cost curve here represent average cost per unit, okay? So that's the meaning. When you're given the output level,
And you're gonna have to stand up.
You can still sit here though.
No, I'll sit in front. It's okay.
there's the seats here, there's the seats here.
Yeah, just go. He's used to sitting over there. That's okay. I didn't want to take your seat.
I was really about to go sit down there.
Trying to mac.
That's all I was saying. I was like,
Okay, so pay attention, guys.
She's trying to teach.
May I have your attention?
I'm sorry.
So when we talk about the average short run curves, okay, average cost curves, and those average cost curves represent average cost per unit when you give an output level. That's what it is. But now I'm going to introduce you the long run average cost curve that has a different meaning. This is the shape of our long run average cost curve. As you see, it's the same kind of shape, right? But now, the long run average cost curve has a totally different meanings. Okay? There are infinite points along this long run average cost curve, right? But this time, each point represent a different scale of the business. Okay, I'm going to pick several points. Okay, that's it. This is the point A, this is the point B, and this is the point C. So A, B, C here represent the different scale of the business, right? As we move along this direction, along the right direction, the scale increases. So which means scale B is bigger than scale A, and scale C is going to be bigger than scale B. If we pick another point, and the scale D is going to be bigger than scale C. Okay. So that's what the long run average cost curves. Each point represent a different scale. And if you're the firm's owner, or your business owner, your goal is to determine which scale to choose from, which is your optimal scale. Okay, I'm gonna review the answer in a few minutes, but just I want to give you a chance to guess which one you think is the optimal scale.
C.
C. That's a good guess. Okay, I'm gonna show you why C is our optimal scale. Okay,
Wait, hold on. You said it was a good guess?
it's a good guess.
That's foul.
Okay, so right now, and we're gonna fix the scale, and we're gonna start analysis here, okay? Let's suppose the firm has already chosen a scale, and which is A. Okay? You know, once this, okay, so let's say the firm is right here, it's choosing the scale A. Once the scale is determined, is chosen, then the analysis turns into a short-run analysis, right? Okay? Then we're going to use this kind of, graph to solve the problem for optimal output and optimal input. Okay? So once the scale is determined, then the problem turns into a short-run problem. Okay? But in order to solve the short-run problem, we need to know the short-run average cost curve and the short-run marginal cost curve at that particular scale, right? So how do we find it? Okay. And long-run average cost curve is very helpful in that way. Okay, so how do we find it? The short-run average cost curve at scale A has to be tangent to the long-run average cost curve at this point. Okay, so I'm going to draw it to you. So if this is the scale we're talking about, this is the scale we chosen, then the short-run average cost curve at that scale looks like that. Okay, so this is what we call the short-run average total cost curve. So this short-run average total cost curve has to be tangent with long-run average cost curve at this point. Alright? So that is the location of the short-run average cost curve at scale A. What about scale B or scale C or scale D? How do we find it? The same thing. Okay? So if we look for the short-run average cost curve for scale C, again, the short-run average cost curve for scale C has to be tangent to the long-run average cost curve at scale C, at point C. Okay, so now you see why long-run average cost curve is so helpful. Because the purpose of the long-run average cost curve is to help us to locate the short-run average cost curve for each different scale. Okay. Okay, so you can tell, as you move toward this direction, the position of the short-run average cost curve changes, right? Okay. I'm going to put a short-run marginal cost curve here as well, okay? Let me ask you this. As we move toward this direction, what's happening to this short-run average cost curve?
It's increasing.
It's it's moving, right?
Yeah.
Moving where? Moving down or moving up? As we move from A to B to see what's happening.
It moved down.
It's moving down, right? Okay. All right. After we reach the lowest point, what happened to this long run? What happened to this short run average cost curve? It's going up. Okay. So what does this tell you? Let's use this as a cutoff point. Okay. If firm chose a scale, the size of the business, that is below this point. Every time they increase the scale, what's happening to the average cost? Every time they increase the scale, what's happening to the average cost? Goes down or goes up? Goes down or goes up?
Goes down.
Goes down. Okay? So if the firm is choosing the scale here, which means it's not still not too big yet. Okay? Then every time they increase the scale, they are experiencing a lower average cost. Okay? Is this a good news or bad news for the firm? A lower average cost per unit production. It's good news. So the firm is benefiting from a larger scale every time they increases, if they're located in this range. But what's happening here? Now the firm has increased the scale to a certain level, but they still want to increase this. You will see, from the news that, two firms decide to merge together. Okay, they decide to get bigger, or they want to open another branch and in a different location or in another country. Okay, so those are the example of expanding, increasing the scale. Okay, so if firm is in this range, every time they increase the scale, the average cost is going up. This is bad news or good news? Bad news. Okay, so this time, every time they make it bigger, make their company or business bigger, they're experiencing a higher average cost per unit production. So this is not good news. So we give a name to these two different kind of stage. Okay, so we call this economies of scale. And this stage called diseconomy of scale. So when the firm is experiencing economy of scale, it means they're benefiting from larger scale. And they should keep increasing, keep expanding. Okay? So that's why, actually, this scale say here, give the firm the lowest, right? Give the firm the lowest scale. So that should be optimal. Okay, as somebody already guessed, that should be optimal. But why don't you think the firm do not choose the scale, say, right away? Why do you think that most firms do not choose scale, say, right away?
They have to determine how much each unit is going to cost before they can determine how many of each they want to make.
Mm-hmm.
And the demand
So-
for that unit.
Very good. So even the graph is like this, we know there is this lowest point of the long run average cost curve. There is a scale that's going to generate the lowest average cost. But the firm actually does not know what is this. Let's see. So what you seeing outside world is they expanding, and they start seeing some problem and starting cutting branches. So what we're seeing is doing this. Okay? The firm is expanding and shrinking, and they're trying to figure out where is this optimal scale C. Okay. All right. Okay, so now we're going to add some graph in addition to this to further our analysis. So again, suppose we are at scale A. Okay, that's what we're at. And at scale A, this is our short-run average cost curve. This is our long-run marginal, short-run marginal cost curve. And in addition to this particular graph, I'm going to draw another graph next to it. Okay. This graph here represents what? Represent a particular firm's characteristics. So this, every time you draw average cost curve and marginal cost curve, that doesn't represent the market, remember here. That represents that particular firm's characteristics. That represent their efficiency, their management level, their production capacity, represent all that stuff. So this graph here, this long run average cost curve represent the firm. So this represent a firm. Okay, but we need to know the information from the market in order to further analysis. So now I'm drawing a graph next to it. This represent the market. The good is sold at. Okay, so the good is sold at this market. And this is what kind of market this is? We're still assuming it. What kind of market? We're still perfect competitive market. We're still at perfect competitive market. If we're still at perfect competitive market, we know each firm is a price taker, right? Okay, so the price is determined by that market. So this is the price determined by that market. And the firm has to sell the good at that price, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this price to that short-run average cost curve here. It's getting fancier, right? It's getting fancy.
I don't even know how to do my nose.
She bringing out the sauce.
Do you
That's why-
know if you're gonna like extend it on because like I didn't know that we had to
Probably they have to do that.
That's okay. That's okay.
chance to redraw the whole thing.
You can,
I'm gonna
yeah.
try and get my best out.
Really?
I just make it a whole page the graph because I may add something else later. Never know. All right. Okay. So the price is right here.
This is so big.
This is the price. This is our short-term average total cost. Can you tell me whether this firm is making positive or negative or zero economic profit? Louder.
Negative.
Neither.
I don't know.
Positive, negative, zero, or why?
Oh no, negative. Positive.
How do we determine whether economic profit is positive or not? We look at the location of the price in relation to
ATC.
ATC, right? Where is ATC? This is ATC here. And the price is right here.
It's at that point.
So it's making positive or negative. So if I drop that price here, the price is way here, right?
Negative.
Positive, negative, or zero?
Negative. Positive.
Positive.
Negative.
It's positive.
Positive economic profit. Yes. The price is high.
Price is higher.
Price is high enough, higher than the lowest point ATC, and you're making a positive economic profit. If the price is really, really low,
You make
then you may
Make
make
negative.
a negative economic profit. So the firm here is making a positive economic profit, right? Okay.
I was
So
almost fucking you up.
can anyone tell me
Thanks.
where is the optimal output the firm has to choose in order to maximize the profit at that scale? Where's the optimal output?
Right there, price and the short run EMC meets.
Very good. Where the price and the short run MC meet, right? That's the point. Now we draw it down and then we just say QA star. So this is the optimal output the firm has to choose to maximize profit. Okay? So we already discussed if the firm chose that, the firm is maximizing profit at scale A. Okay? So if you are in this position, okay, are you going to be content with whatever profit you're making?
No.
You're not? You say no. Okay. No? I want to hear why. Why?
Because businesses always want more money.
Always want more money.
They want more profit.
They want more profit. Do you think they can make more?
Yes.
How?
By going over on the long run average cost curve.
By increasing the scale, right? Okay. So at scale A, they're already maximizing their profit by producing at Q star A, right? So at that particular scale, yes, they are maximizing, but is that the maximum they can make? They can do better. How can they do better? They increase the scale, okay? So if they say they increase to scale B, okay? I'm not draw this one. So it's gonna be even messier right now, okay? That's why you need to make the whole page. I'm going to try to make this. All right, so let's see the firm. So this is the tangent point, okay?
Yeah, that sounds like fun, but I'll just go sit down there.
Okay. So let's say the firm increased to scale B. And this is our short-run marginal cost curve. This is our short-run average cost curve. But now you say the profit is bigger. Why the profit is bigger?
Because as you move to the right, you're increasing.
As you move to the right, let's suppose the price is still here.
Yeah.
Look at this little curve. It gets lower. So when the prices remains here, but this thing is going to go down. As this thing going to go down, your economic profit is going to be bigger. Okay, economic profit represents the difference between the price and average total cost. Remember? Okay. So suppose the price is remain the same, then this little bowl, you know, I call this the little bowl in a big bowl, it gets lower and lower, right? And then your profit is going to get bigger and bigger. Okay. So that's what existing firms are doing in this market. So existing firms are not going to be content. Okay? They are going to expanding. They're going to expand. When they expand, do you think they're going to produce more or less?
More.
More. Can you tell me where is optimal output right now? Marginal cost was this price. Now this is the QB star, right? So the firm is going to expand and produce more. Okay? All right. But you know we're talking about an environment that is dynamic, that's interconnected. The firm is connected to market, and one market is connected to multiple other markets. So everything is interrelated. Okay. So the question here is, the existing firm are expanding, and provide more and more output in this market. How that kind of change impacts this market? The existing firm are going to produce more and more to the market. Suddenly you see more and more, let's say, MP3 player on the shelf. How that's going to impact the whole market? and how?
Well, since that good's more of a variety, wouldn't it drop the price on it?
Show me how do we describe that, what you said on the graph.
So your supply would go up and the demand for that good would go down.
Demand, we do not know, but we know because this is, we're talking about the firm's behavior. Firms produce more, right? So we know for sure that supply is going to increase, change to the right, shift to the right. When supply increases like this, look at the equilibrium price. What happened to equilibrium price? So that's the impact that firm's action has on the market. Okay? So with this impact, you see a lower equilibrium price. And with lower equilibrium price, you know the firm's profit is going to be lower than before, right? You guys with me here? Okay. Before the price is P star, right now the P star prime, okay? And the price is smaller, it's lower, the profit is smaller. But as long as the firm still has not reached this scale C, the firm will keep expanding because every time it expands, what happens? This average cost curve is going to go down based on that price. So as long as the scale C has not reached, the firm will keep expanding. Okay, all right. And that kind of change will have this kind of impact on the market, so the price will keep pushed down by this kind of change. All right. So this is about what the existing firm going to do. What do you think about the firm from outside this market? Apple made the first, I think the popular MP3 player called iPod. Do you guys remember iPod? I remember, so I think it's probably 15 years ago.
Could it,
The Nano.
could it have been?
Is it 15 years ago? It's about that.
iPod Nano.
Yeah, I think maybe not 15, but definitely 10 years ago. Definitely.
Okay, 10 years ago.
You can buy, okay. iPod, okay. And then when I first had that, I thought, oh, this thing is so pretty and so neat, okay? There's nothing in the market like that, okay? And it was expensive, $400-500 per iPod. It was very expensive. And so guess what happened? Once the iPod became very popular,
More people made.
other electronic companies start making similar product, you know. But I do believe, you know, I think way before that, there were a company making like something like MP3 player, but never got popular. Okay, so iPod was very first MP3 player that really popular. So that's really and kind of instilled the kind of creativity and innovation in this kind of market. So more and more electronic companies start doing that. Okay, so what I'm saying here is, if there's somebody is making a huge profit in this market, the firms outside this industry or this market is not going to sit there doing nothing. They're going to try to come in, start, you know, and compete with you, start, you know, share this profit margin with you. Okay, so when that happens, I want to ask you how that's going to be described in this graph here. When outside firms start coming in,
They're gonna have probably a lower price.
they're going to do the similar product, probably lower price, and they're going to supply similar kind of thing, kind of like substitute, right? So the supply is going to be even bigger. Supply is going to increase even more. Okay, so outside firm will start coming in and produce. And that also put a pressure on the price. So because that will make the supply curve shift to the right even more. And that will push the price and even lower. when the price is even lower, the profit made by the existing firm is going to be even lower. Okay? So you see, what I just described is the impact of what the existing firm are doing and what outside firm doing, how those kind of things influence the market. And once the market is affected, the change of price gonna come back to influence the profit made by the firms. Okay? So this is a dynamic movement. Do you guys see it? It's a dynamic movement. Existing firm want to produce more and increase the scale. That's going to make the supply curve shift to the right, push the price down. Outside firm is going to start coming in. That will shift the supply curve even more, push the price down. And when the price is lower, the profit made by the existing firm are going to be smaller. Okay, so the market is influencing the firms, and the firms' action, they come back influence the market. So it's constantly moving and changing, constantly moving and changing. But no, the market force always push everything toward what? Toward what?
On the higher scale.
Toward what we call a stable point, an equilibrium point. The market does not want to keep this dynamic movement. The market always looking for. If you think about the market is somebody with this highly intelligent, it's highly sophisticated, they always look for that stable point, look for what we call equilibrium point. So what is a stable point this market is trying to converge to? At which point you think this market will reach this temporarily stable situation where the existing firm will stay, outside firm will stop coming in, and the price will stay where it's at. Everything reach this temporary, peaceful, and stable situation.
Perfect.
Where is that point? And that's the point the market force will trying to move everybody to. Market is like a living thing. It's a living thing. It has its own principle, has its own force. And it always has this principle. The principle is trying to move toward that equilibrium. So where is that? Which scale you think the firm have to be at that equilibrium point?
See.
C. Okay? So when the firm increase the scale to scale C, okay, and the price has been pushed down and shift down to which level? See who can give us insight on that. At what level price with the scale C and will make the market temporarily stable? Think about it. As long as the firm is still making positive profit, the market will not be stable, right? Outside firm will start trying to come in. So the firm has to be making a zero economic profit in order to reach that stable situation. So where is the zero economic profit price?
Where they're tangent with the thing.
Yeah, where the price is reaching.
It's probably between USD.
When the market price is pushed down to the lowest point of the long run average cost curve, which is also the lowest point of the short run average cost curve at scale C. And the firm is choosing the scale C, and the economic profit made by this firm is what? Zero. And this is the break-even point, right? At break-even point, your economic profit equals zero, and outside firm are going to start coming in because they do not see any profit margin to share anymore. Okay, but what do you think the existing firm? Do you think the existing firm can do better moving from C? No, they can't, because if they move from C, the average cost curve, that little ball, is going to go up, right? It's going to move up. So average cost curve is going to go up. So at this price, the existing firm has no incentive to change this scale anymore because that's the lowest average cost curve they can have. If they go any higher or lower scale, their average cost curve is going to move up, move above the price. They're going to have a negative economic profit. Okay, so that's why when the prices reach here, the scale is right here, and the market reaches what we call temporarily stable situation. And that's what we call here is a long run equilibrium point. So this is a long run equilibrium point in a perfect competitive market. And if we use formula to represent it, if it's this. This is what we call the
Wow. Okay.
this is a dynamic movement. Okay. Long run average cost curve is long run average cost curve is equal to short run average cost is equal to long run marginal cost is equal to short run marginal cost at that price. All right. So if we look at this graph here, we have one that represents the particular form we're talking about. Then we have this another one, the smaller one on the left, represent market, the good is sold at, right? So we know if there's anything change in action of the firm, that market will be affected. I'm going to pose another question to you. Is that only market that will be affected if the existing firm wants to produce more, outside firm want to come in produce more? Is that only market that will be affected by that change?
The labor market,
Very good. What is labor considered as?
because they'd have to hire more people to work, to produce all the goods.
So what he's talking about is
Human capital.
input market. So this market we draw is the output market. That market will be affected, but then there's another market that will also be affected. It's input market. So when you produce more and more, you will require more resources, more inputs, right? Okay. So I'm going to erase this language here. So this is what we call the output market, where the product is sold at. But there is another market that is also going to be affected, is input market. As you produce more and more, yes, you're going to sell more and more, but also you need more inputs to produce, right? You need, for example, there's a lot of people selling MP3 player. You probably need people who have the computer programming expertise. So suddenly there is huge demand on that kind of expertise, okay? And also those kind of raw materials goes into this MP3 player. That will be required more in the market as well. So that market, input market, also affected. So I want to ask you, how this input market is affected? Which one?
The demand.
Is a demand, right? We demand more inputs, okay? So demand is going to shift to
The right.
go up. When the demand shift to the right, what's happening to this? What do we call this?
The price.
It's the input price, right? So it's the price a firm have to pay to get the raw material, to pay to hire workers, right? Managers. Okay. So what happened to this price? Increases, right? Is this good news or bad news for the firm?
Possibly bad news.
Very bad news, right? Now they have to pay more to hire. Now they have to pay more for their raw materials, for their input. So that's increased their cost of production. So this, it's going to have an impact on the firms, right? So how this going to impact this whole thing?
It's gonna make profit less.
It's going to make profit less because
They're paying people more and they're paying.
because the cost is higher, right? So when the input price goes up, the cost overall is going to be higher. So your long run average cost curve, the whole thing is going to be shift up. So if long run average cost curve, the whole thing is going to shift up. All those little, short run average cost curve, little ball is going to all shift up as well, right? So that will make the profit even smaller for the firm. That will make the equilibrium convergence even faster. But again, the market always want to come back to that place where the price is equal to all those things. It's the lowest point of long run average cost curve. Okay. So this whole thing here, what I just described, wrapped it up, everything we have learned so far. Supply, demand, consumer's preference is embedded in the demand, okay? And producer theory from 7, 8, 9, always embedded in this analysis. Okay, so all the stuff we have been talking about is preparing us for this. Okay, so what I described there is the dynamic movement on how firms, input market and output market interact with each other in order to reach that long-run equilibrium point. Again, this is a dynamic movement. All these three things move simultaneously, okay? But always they want to reach this point. But why this point we call it temporarily stable?
Because the market's always moving.
The temporary stable because anything happen. Let's say something happened to this.
Supply? Or,
All demand,
okay.
anything happening in any kind of market will make this shift again. If this shifting, and this going to be moving, okay? And we're in a world that there's constant change. Any kind of stern change will trigger some change in a certain market, then will make the whole movement start moving again. But it's always want to come back to that equilibrium point. Okay. So that's what I want to talk about. And do you think you can stand here, describe all this dynamic movement?
No.
Not at all. Not yet. So not say never.
Not yet.
Okay?
I like the idea of that.
Then you should have faith in that. This what I'm doing. This dynamic movement is what I want you grasp for the video. This video is recorded. I want you to watch over and over until you can use your own words to describe this dynamic movement. And you will be describing this dynamic movement using the words and the graph in Newton 3.
Ooh, snapping,
Yes.
Dr. She snapping.
I can tell you right now, it comes for at least 20. Just this. Use the word and the graph. Describe this dynamic.
Just a little straight.
Because just like I said, there's the one thing that wrap up everything. If you understand the dynamic of these things, you understand everything. I will concept, from the previous chapter. So this is where and you know, you're gonna see this question no surprise. And our exam is which day?
Next Wednesday.
Wednesday, 1 week from today. 1 week from today. Okay, so mark on your calendar, prepare the exam. And the homework is chapter 8, I already posted, right? And I'm going to post the chapter 9 today, 9, and it's going to be due on Tuesday. So I encourage you to finish that early.
The homework's gonna be next Tuesday.
Wait, so both homework are due Tuesday?
No, one's Tuesday.
One
Yeah,
is
one's
due
Saturday,
Are you
one's
guys
Tuesday.
checking
I'm not.
The other one is going to be on Tuesday, but prepare both of them this weekend, so you can start, preparing for this meeting.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
It's only 10 minutes on.
No, come on, let's do it.
All right.
Listen though.